leader.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. That's it? Good morning, everyone. Beautiful. So we're going to have some energy. I'm going to keep it going throughout the day because we're here to have a lot of fun, learn, but also create true transformation. So we'll get into my presentation in a second. But let me just tell you a little bit about myself because it's the first time I'm here at this event. Just give you a little bit of background. So my name is Nandita. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've run many businesses over the years, but I started off my career in pharmaceutical sales. So I was trained in sales by some of the best sales trainers in the world. I feel incredibly blessed and lucky, and I feel like it set me up for success in such a way that I've been able to be influenced by leaders in the corporate space, where I took a lot of those skills and transferred them across into running my own businesses. I found that leadership is one of those things that we have to develop over the years. And something that parenting also showed me about leadership is we can never become perfect at it. We're always learning, we're always growing, we're always a student of leadership. So I invite you all today to come with me on my journey. I want to talk to you about a couple of simple things. I don't have a lot to talk about because I feel like we've often been through so many talks, so many presentations, where there's a lot of information. Before I do get into what I'm going to talk about, though, I want to invite you all just to think about an example of a leader that you have worked for that you felt was a phenomenal leader. And think about some of the reasons why you thought they were such a fantastic leader. So it could have been a boss that you worked for. It may have been one of your teachers. It may even be characteristics from one of your parents or your family members. Because leadership doesn't just take the form of a business owner, of a boss, of a company CEO. Because often when we think of leader, we think of maybe a prime minister or a president. We think of big CEOs. But as I said, each and every one of us is a leader in parts of our lives. So if you've all thought of someone, I want you to now think about someone that you really didn't enjoy being under their leadership. What were their characteristics? What were their behaviors that made you feel really, really uncomfortable? I'm going to tell you a story of a couple of my leaders in my life and why I thought they were so phenomenal. So one of my bosses would never answer any of my questions. And I used to get really frustrated. I'd be like, Stuart, I ask you a question and you never answer it. Because he would always say, what do you think? How do you feel we should approach that? If I said, well, I don't know what to do about this. Nandita, what's your opinion then? And at that moment, I used to get really frustrated and think, why can't you just help me with this? But what he was doing was removing my reliance on my leaders. He was encouraging me to become independent. And what was more important, and my biggest learning, was that when things did go wrong, I wasn't able to just say something went wrong. I could own the outcome. Yes, it was under my watch. It was under my decision making. It was through my execution that possibly something went wrong. But even more important, when something went right, it was owned by me too. And that was probably one of the biggest growths I've had, because the successes and failures, I was able to take accountability and responsibility for those. And that set me up so beautifully for my journey in entrepreneurship. Because everything in entrepreneurship is our fault. Everything in our businesses and our lives is our fault. I know there are some amazing people in the room today who are going to be talking a lot about changing our behaviors, our mindset, actually rewiring some of the ways in which we do things. And I'm not here to talk about that. But what I do believe very, very firmly is when we take that extreme accountability for everything in our life, everything we see around us is a reflection of our own thinking, of our own behaviors, and of our own actions. So I want you to think about leadership from all of those different angles today. As I said, possibly things that may not typically spring to mind when you think about leadership. So I'm really going to be talking to you about two main powerful principles. And as I said, a lot of things in leadership have already been spoken about. There's a lot of material out there. So I'm not here to really just give you kind of information, especially not information overload. Currently, the company that I have co-founded is the Entrepreneur Success Foundry. We help entrepreneurs to build beautiful organizations that they feel incredibly proud of, where they can be a true leader, create more leaders within their organization. So we focus a lot on creating high-performing organizations, which are led by high-performing teams. And at the center of all of that is high-performance individuals. So as the age of AI is coming, Usha's mentioned how powerful it is and how much it can actually help us in our day-to-day lives, in projects that we undertake. But in that process, I do truly believe that we as individuals are still going to play a huge role in leading our organizations, leading our families, leading our communities. I mean, today's event is an absolutely amazing example of that. You know, the people who've today put together such a phenomenal event are true leaders. They've had to come together. They've had to use their intelligence. They've had to use their understanding of what people want. They've had to use true connection to bring everyone together. But more importantly, AI doesn't have the consciousness that we do in order to create true transformation, to take things to the next level, to create innovation for the next generations. So I don't want us to ever lose sight of how important it is that we develop our leadership skills, that we work on our leadership capabilities, and we're always working towards becoming high-performing individuals that can create a world which has got more things happening in it. So I feel like a lot of people are moving away from principles a lot of the time and looking for quick fixes, that silver bullet, something that's going to get them the answer straight away. But I would encourage everyone that if you truly want to build high-performing teams, communities, organizations, then really go back to some of these principles I'm going to be talking about today. And as I said, I've learned a lot about that through parenting. So a lot of the time we think, this is how I want things to go. This is what I'm going to do. I would only do things like this. So when you're actually in the moment with your child, all of your common sense, logic, all of your learning, everything goes out the window. And sometimes we just have to accept the moment as it is. And we have to learn moment to moment how to respond. And it's a lot like that with other human beings that we interact with. So leadership, as I said, we may have learned some of and heard some of the very typical cliche kind of sentences. And as I said, I want to go a little bit away from that today and really encourage you that day to day, when you're faced with those situations where you're uncomfortable, where suddenly you're like, I don't know what to do anymore, I want you to think about these principles and remain a student of leadership. We must always spend time with other great leaders. I mean, today's a fantastic example. We're surrounding ourselves with other successful individuals. The rooms that we put ourselves into, aside from the ones that we just run, really help us to elevate. Seeing examples of how things are done really well help us to grow moment to moment. So this boss of mine that I explained to you, wouldn't answer all of my questions easily for me, made me think for myself, made me take extreme accountability for what I did. In one of the examples, I actually went to pitch to a client. I used my strategy, I used my research, put together a deck, and I went ahead and did the presentation. Unfortunately, during that pitch, I don't think the client really liked what we were showing them, and we didn't get the contract. I was obviously pretty disappointed, and that failure set me back quite a lot. But later on that year, my boss actually promoted me, not one level, but two. Actually, he was promoting me and reinforcing behaviors that were proactive. Rather than punishing me, shouting at me, or making me feel little for losing out on a contract, I was actually given more opportunities. Because failure is actually usually a bigger teacher for us than successes are. So I have many examples of where that's happened, and I'm pretty sure you guys can all think of examples where you have failed, and actually it's taught you so much more than some of the successes. So again, I encourage you to use this when you're leading your teams. I want to talk to you quickly about the 5 levels of leadership. People follow us at the first level because they have to. They come in, they clock into work, they do the bare minimum, they clock out and they leave again. The second level that comes is because they actually like you. They like working for you. They like what you do for them. The third level is because they like what you achieve, because you are successful. You demonstrate traits of success and achievement. After that, it's because you help them to grow. So once they start feeling like they're developing, that's the next level. And finally, the last and the most important level is because they like who you are and what you stand for. So, I told you I'm only going to really be talking about 2 main principles. So the first one is it's not about you. The more we can take ourselves out of the equation as a leader, as I explained to you about my boss, he really didn't make it about himself. He didn't make me dependent on him. So I didn't have to keep going to knock at his door and go, can you help me? He slowly built my muscle. He inspired me to think, to act proactively, and promoted me even during failures. He helped me to become a strong individual in my own right, a leader in my own right. And I really want you to think about that, because we want to create more leaders and not followers. Because we want our organizations to thrive and succeed whether we are there or not. We want to set the principles, we want to set the example, but then we want our team to take that forward, because sometimes they're actually better at things than we are. And we really want to inspire them to do what they are best at. And we cannot spend our time believing that we're the only ones who understand what is required to take our companies forward and believe in the people around us. I'm using the example of companies right now, but some of us may be solopreneurs. Some of us may not even have started our companies. So in those examples, I want you to think about some of your, they may be clients. There may be possibilities of JV partners. There may be suppliers. And this principle also applies in those arenas. So when you're not necessarily leading a team, or as I said, even about things like parenting and communities that we're fostering, think about how important it is to inspire others and uplift them and get them to come on that journey with us. And the second one, which may seem slightly counterintuitive, but it is only about us. So how I said about extreme accountability, leadership is about what we show up as. With my children, as I gave you an example, one of the things I've seen is that they do as I do, not as I say. So I really want you to think about that, right? If I say to them, I want you to put your phone down, a lot of the time they look at me and be like, you're still on your phone. I want you to eat your greens, but if I'm eating my greens, they're more likely to. So I want you to really focus on what do you do as a leader. One of the things that is the most difficult as we grow is that we have a limitation of time. We're often running around like headless chickens, and we don't often find that we have the time and space to really think about these things consciously. Our brains are wired to develop habits, and those habits help us so that day to day we don't have to remember how to walk again, how to eat again, how to communicate again. And actually, those habits help us to become more efficient. But when it comes to leadership, when it comes to truly inspiring other people, how often do you spend looking at the things that you do? Because remember, the people around you, as I said, they may not even just be your team. It might be JV partners, it may be clients, but people will follow what you do and less of what you say. So think about how you show up. Someone said to me very recently, your habits show up on you the minute that someone sees you. How do you take care of yourself? Are you eating well? Are you exercising well? Do you groom yourself correctly? Do you spend time on making sure that you show up appropriately to the rooms that you go to? How much reading do you do? How current do you stay with your skill set? Are you always growing and learning? Because that inspiration and the people around you, when they see that, they will be more inspired by the things that you do to grow, the things that you invest in yourself, than even the things that you say. So you may be in a team meeting, trying to inspire your team, fire them up, really get them raring. But when they see that you don't have the energy because you've not rested, you've not eaten well, you've not actually done exercise this week, as I said, it will really show up and people can see it. So what we're creating is very evident, like I said, as a reflection of what is around us. So today I urge you all to take a little bit of time to really notice the things that are in our reality. Do we have the business we want? Do we have the relationships we want? Do we have the lifestyle that we want? A lot of that can be changed by our own leadership. How do we lead ourselves? How do we lead ourselves through our day? How do we lead ourselves through our work? And how are we showing up? Because the more we show up correctly, people around us will automatically be inspired to follow. So mastering others is a strength, but mastering others is a true power. And mastering others through the mastery of yourself is what I want you to all focus on. I have a few resources as well that I can send out to you. Some of it is just simple planners, literally taking a spreadsheet that maps out your week and just noting down, what did you do this week? How did you utilize your time? Make it a conscious effort to observe yourself. Because when you observe yourself, you'll notice what other people see. And that is the leadership qualities, that is the leadership characteristics that is being displayed to them. So finally, that's what I want to talk to you about, is through the work we do at the Entrepreneur Success Foundry, is helping leaders to create transformation within themselves, to create transformation within the organization by becoming conscious of what is currently happening now. When you're really aware of your current situation, you really bring it to light. You put it all down on paper, how I just said. How are you actually utilizing your hours in the week? Where can you make changes? Where can you delegate things? So some of the clients I work with at the moment, just little things like implementing VAs, using things like AI for things that are repetitive, absolutely fabulous way to take things off your plate, to give you the time to really progress, to really create the changes that you want to. Habits, as I said, are created to ensure that you don't have to keep relearning all the basics all the time. But sometimes we can get into negative habits when it comes to building our businesses and building our lives. So if we really want to grow and transform, we have to become conscious of those habits and work actively to rewire them. And then slowly grow towards the goal of where do you actually want to be. So when you have clarity of where you want to get to, if you want to make more money, some of the people I work with say, I want more time back. When I started my business, I did it so I would actually have time freedom. Now I'm actually working a lot more and paying myself less than when I started out in business. So sometimes we're just trying to look for where can we create more time for them? Where can we create an asset for them in their business that's actually tangible and they can sell it? Because sometimes you're creating a business, but are you really creating value within that business? So starting off with where you are, looking at where you want to be, and really putting in these leadership qualities. A lot of the things that we do are actually very fun. So we do them through games, we do them through simulations, we do them through team building workshops. We can work with people one-to-one as well. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. Drop me a note if you'd like some of the resources, absolutely free. I can send them out to you if you're interested. But more importantly, like I said, we're really passionate about helping people to become conscious of the things that they're doing day to day that may either be helping them to get to where they want to or possibly not letting them get to the next level. So thank you for being an amazing audience. And like I said, please do connect with me. And I'm really looking forward to spending more time with you over the next couple of days.